In the final stage of the Battle of Gaugamela between Persians and Macedonians, Persian losses were catastrophic, with estimates of 40,000 to 90,000 casualties, compared to Alexander's relatively minimal losses of around 500 to 1,200. This decisive, well-coordinated attack ensured a resounding Macedonian victory, effectively ending the Achaemenid Empire's dominance. Today, we will go straight to a titanic clash of empires, the Battle of Gaugamela, that Alexander shattered the myth of Persian invincibility, carving his name into legend. In 331 BC, the Macedonian army took some time to reorganize in the fertile Nile Valley following their victories in Tyre and Gaza. Egyptian satraps were not very loyal to the Persian provinces, therefore they did not attempt to oppose Alexander, viewing him as a liberator rather than a conqueror. Following a humiliating loss close to Issus, Darius, the Persian king, modified his strategy and attempted to halt Alexander's colonial invasion through diplomatic means. However, the king of Macedon turned down Darius's increasingly favorable offers 3 times, and as winter deepened, he began sketching out the strategy for the impending Babylonian expedition. After all the arrangements were finished, in early April, the reorganized and well-supplied Macedonian army marched back toward Phoenicia. It is noteworthy that Alexander gave careful consideration to the logistical aspects of his conquests, which are typically disregarded. It took exceptional planning and stellar management to keep such a large army in top condition while they were thousands of miles away from home. The Macedonian army kept to the shore for as long as it could, using the fleet to provide supplies. By the time Alexander crossed the Euphrates, the fresh Persian army was being gathered, and Darius was fully aware of the Greek action. Expecting the Macedonians to march directly to Babylon along the river, the King of Kings chose to employ scorched earth tactics, ordering the plundered Euphrates Valley. Alexander instead took the lengthier, but more rural, northern path, which had easy access to food and water, despite the fact that the prosperous cities near the river were well fortified and made supply collecting difficult. As soon as he received the shocking news, Darius instantly departed Babylon heading north, along the east bank of the Tigris River. To hinder the Macedonian advance, he assigned a formidable cavalry regiment under the command of Mazaeus, the governor of Babylon, to protect the Tigris's northern crossing points and plunder its eastern bank. However, Mazaeus was unable to confront the Greeks during the crossing, and Alexander arrived at the east bank of the river in mid-September. Darius began looking for a good location for the impending combat because he knew it was almost here. He made camp on a broad plain close to Gaugamela hamlet and started making preparations. Meanwhile, Alexander's forces apprehended a Persian reconnaissance team and discovered Darius was camped 30 kilometers east. The Macedonian king quickly dispatched his own scouts and advanced towards the enemy. Following a few days of respite, Alexander left for the Persian fortifications in the final days of September. Camp was located behind a hill, roughly 10 kilometers from the area that was thought to be the battleground. Mazaeus' unit had been defending the hill between the two armies, but when he noticed the entire Macedonian army was drawing near, the Persian aristocrat quietly withdrew without a struggle and rode back to the camp, giving up the hill. The broad fields controlled by Darius, along with his larger force, made the upcoming battle advantageous for the Persians. Though losing the hill was significant, it did not overly disadvantage Darius. After quickly surveying the surroundings, Alexander seized the hill and established a temporary camp there. This elevated position allowed him to observe the Persian camp and troop positions, providing him with a crucial tactical edge. Besides, the hill was ideally adapted for defense, so Alexander took his time and calmly got ready for the fight, making sure his men were well fed, rested, and mentally strong. In comparison, due to Mazaeus' failure, Darius was under constant threat of sudden Greek attack, even at night, so his troops had to maintain readiness for battle. Darius' army was forced to wait for the Macedonians to initiate action because storming the ridge was not a feasible strategy, despite having considerably more soldiers, strong cavalry, and favorable terrain on his side. While Alexander and his officers talked about the impending conflict, the sun was slowly sinking below the horizon. Alexander is reported to have rejected Parmenion, his second-in-command's suggestion to launch an attack at night to surprise the Persians, deeming it too dangerous. It was therefore decided by the Macedonian command to launch an early morning offensive the following day. Before long, the battlefield was illuminated by the first rays of dawn. October the 1st was coming. The Persian army was already in battle formations, as they spent the whole night waiting for the Macedonian attack, which never came. When Alexander eventually woke up from his nap, not long later, Alexander and his army strode onto the Gaugamela plain in battle-ready formation. Finally, the Macedonian king and his Persian counterpart were face to face once more, and the great battle for Asia was about to begin. But this clash was not to be the walkover the Macedonians might have expected after their winter of luxury. Darius's army was so massive that its flanks extended beyond Alexander's by a significant margin, and outflanking was virtually assured. The Persian left and right wings were commanded by Bessus and Mazias respectively, while the great King Darius III himself was stationed in the center. On the left, Bessus led thousands of Arachosians and Sogdians, as well as cavalry from his own satrapy in Bactria. Additional mounted might came from the nomadic peoples that fought as horse archers or cataphracts for the empire, such as the Sakai and Dahai Scythians, who lived beyond Persia's northern border. Mazaeus led a group of Medes, Syrians, and Mesopotamians on the right, with Parthian and Morseke cavalry flanking him in the middle. The people who inhabited the Caucasus and the regions surrounding the Caspian Sea, the Tepurians, Hyrcanians, Albanians, and Sacassinians, formed the bridge connecting the right and center. The riders from Cappadocia and Armenia made up the vanguard of Mazaeus' wing. Darius's center consisted of the king's personal cavalry, immortals, and the Indian cavalry, as well as mixed Persian and Greek mercenaries. In this epic battle, two additional unique units made their appearance. Initially, there were the 200 scythed chariots of the Great King, which were shock vehicles with blades on their wheels, rather experimental, and designed to disintegrate the formidable Macedonian phalanx. These chariots were arranged in 3 rows, 50 in front of the Indians, 50 beside the Armenians of Mazaeus, and 100 immediately to the right of Bessus's Bactrians. The Indian contingent was escorted by 15 magnificent elephants. At Gaugamela, the Persian army totaled between 100,000 and 150,000 soldiers, of which 30 to 40,000 were cavalry. This enormous force was met with Alexander's army, which consisted of about 7,000 cavalry and 40,000 infantry. On the surface, its units were drawn up as they usually were. Phalanx battalions made up the solid center. Parmenion and his allied Thessalian cavalry stood guard on the left, while Alexander, the companion cavalry, and the king's usual Agrianes, archer, and Hypaspist strike force prepared to smash the enemy army on the right. The Macedonian monarch began to extend his line right in an attempt to gain a flanking advantage, but Darius quickly replied by stretching his left flank and matching the opponent's movement. Darius intended to keep the Macedonians from departing the prepared land, since he had leveled the battlefield and removed any barriers for better chariot use. Alexander's far right was attacked by Persian cavalry as they advanced. The combat got fierce, with no obvious winner. But as time went on, the Macedonian cavalry won out and destroyed some Persian battalions despite suffering severe casualties. Darius sent all of his scythed chariots to charge the Greek center after spotting the problem to his left. However, this attack was not very effective since the defenders parted, allowing attackers to ride through the line and attack them with javelins at the same time. The Macedonian commander was forced to concede after the Persian right flank, led by Mazaeus, attacked Parmenian's side, killing numerous Greeks in the process. Being outnumbered and partially encircled put Parmenion in grave danger, but this wasn't the first time he had to fight against the odds. Despite great sacrifice, his flank heroically resisted the Persian onslaught. At this point, Darius became aware that Alexander was splitting the Macedonian center by shifting his flank to the right, while Parmenion remained on the left. Seeing an opportunity, the Persian monarch sent his immortal troops in haste to take advantage of the weakness. This was a ruse. By doing this, Darius's own corps was revealed. Alexander had been waiting for just this moment. He moved companion cavalry quickly, flanked by the remaining forces, and assaulted the Persian center, just where Darius's unguarded royal guard was. The Macedonian attack breached the Persian line rapidly, even with the backing of second-line soldiers. Darius quickly realized there was danger and, as he had done 2 years before in the Issus battle, left the battlefield. Alexander instantly set out to pursue, but he quickly gave in to temptation and galloped back to protect Parmenion's flank. At last, help arrived, but the Macedonian left was still engaged in fierce fighting, and the Persian men that remained were quickly overrun. With the Persian army routed, Alexander swiftly moved to consolidate his gains. He marched unopposed into the heart of the Persian Empire, taking control of key cities and securing vast amounts of wealth and resources. One of the immediate prizes was the capture of Babylon, a city renowned for its splendor and strategic importance. Babylon surrendered without resistance, and Alexander entered the city as a conqueror, receiving a hero's welcome from the local population. The city's wealth and resources significantly bolstered Alexander's war chest, enabling him to finance further campaigns. Despite his defeat at Gaugamela, Darius III did not give up his claim to the throne. He attempted to regroup and muster support from loyal satraps and allies. However, his efforts were in vain. Betrayed by his own men, Darius was captured and subsequently murdered by the Bactrian satrap Bessus in July 330 BC. Bessus declared himself king, taking the regnal name Artaxerxes V, but his claim was short-lived. Alexander pursued Darius relentlessly, eager to capture the Persian king and consolidate his rule over the entire empire. Upon discovering Darius's fate, Alexander ordered a proper burial for his erstwhile adversary, demonstrating respect for his fallen foe and asserting his role as the rightful successor to the Persian throne. With the Persian Empire under his control, Alexander's ambitions expanded further. He led his army into Central Asia, where he faced and overcame various challenges. At the Persian gates in 330 BC, Alexander displayed tactical ingenuity by outflanking the defenders, leading to a decisive victory that opened the way to Persepolis. In 327 BC, during the siege of the Sogdian Rock, Alexander's strategic brilliance shone through as he captured the seemingly impregnable fortress by sending climbers to scale the cliffs. This victory showcased his determination and ability to adapt to challenging situations. One of Alexander's most challenging battles occurred in 326 BC against King Porus at the Hydaspes River. Despite the formidable Indian war elephants and treacherous river conditions, Alexander executed a daring night crossing and launched a surprise attack, securing a hard-fought victory. He reinstated Porus as a satrap, demonstrating both magnanimity and political acumen. During the Malian campaign in 325 BC, Alexander was severely wounded while leading an assault. His near-fatal injury spurred his troops to renewed efforts, ultimately subduing the Malians. This campaign highlighted his personal bravery and the loyalty he inspired in his men. After consolidating his conquests in India, Alexander began the long journey back to Babylon. Along the way, he dealt with administrative matters, established cities, and integrated diverse cultures within his empire. In 324 BC, he launched a final campaign against the Chaucaeans, further solidifying his control over the region. In 323 BC, Alexander returned to Babylon, where he began planning future campaigns, including a possible invasion of Arabia. However, he fell ill and died at the age of 32. His death marked the end of his unprecedented campaign of conquest. Alexander's legacy endured through the vast empire he created, the spread of Greek culture, and the lasting impact of his military tactics and strategies on future generations. See you in the next battle video. Leave in the comment the battle that you want us to go in depth. Please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching.